Welcome back to CarWow 787, where we bring horsepower to life, one engine at a time. If you're passionate about big rigs, diesel beasts, and the heart of what drives the open road, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the roar of raw mechanical power. Now let's get into it. Today, we're going deep into the mechanical soul of a true workhorse, the E7 engine. The Mach E7 is one of the most iconic engines ever built for semi-trucks, known for its durability, simplicity, and raw torque that kept fleets moving for decades. Originally introduced in the late 1980s, the E7 quickly became a favorite among truckers and mechanics alike, especially for its in-frame rebuild potential and solid mechanical foundation. Whether you're restoring an old Mac or just curious how a legend comes together, this is the video for you. Now, before you even touch a wrench, let's talk preparation. You need a clean, organized shop environment. Everything from hoist chains to torque wrenches needs to be in place. You're going to be handling heavy cast iron components, precisely machined parts, and critical timing measurements. Safety glasses on, gloves up, and now it's time to bring this beast back to life. We begin with the block. The E7's block is a cast iron inline 6 with a 12-liter displacement. You'll want to thoroughly clean the block using a hot tank or solvent washer, remove any carbon buildup or rust scale. Then inspect all oil galleries and coolant jackets for blockage or corrosion. Use bore gauges to measure each cylinder. If the wear is within spec, a simple hone will do. If not, you're boring it and fitting oversized pistons. Once the block checks out, we move to the crankshaft. Set it on V-blocks and measure for runout. This part must be perfect. If there's any warping or scoring on the journals, regrind and polish it to the next undersize bearing. Install new main bearings into the block and gently set the crank in place. Lube everything with assembly lube, then torque the main caps down to spec in a proper sequence. Always double check with a torque wrench, and don't rush this part. The crank is your bottom and backbone. Now to the pistons and rods. The E7 uses forged steel connecting rods and aluminum pistons with steel inserts. If you're upgrading, go with the Mala or Mac OEM kits, they last. Heat the pistons if you're fitting the pins and be sure to align the oil squirters properly. Slide the rings on, checking gap clearance carefully. You don't want broken rings on first fire. Lube them, compress, and install them carefully into the bores, guiding the rods onto the crank journals. Next up, rod bearings and torque specs. These must be torqued precisely. Use plastic gauge to confirm oil clearance before final assembly. If you're doing a full rebuild, always replace the oil pump, or at the very least, tear it down and inspect it for wear. The E7 relies heavily on consistent oil pressure for both the cam and turbo lubrication. Now let's talk about the camshaft. The E7's cam is gear-driven and controls both the intake and exhaust valves via pushrods and rockers. First, inspect the cam journals and lobes for scoring. If it's worn, replace it. Slide it in carefully with assembly lube. Next are the lifters, flat tappet style on most variants. Drop them in their bores with clean oil and check for free movement. Install the timing gears next. Unlike some engines, the E7's timing is mechanical and precise. Line up the gear timing marks perfectly. If you're off even by a tooth, your valves will be out of sync and you'll risk catastrophic failure. Once the cam and crank are timed, install the idler gears and torque everything to spec. Double-check backlash using feeler gauges to ensure proper clearance between gear teeth. Let's move to the cylinder head. These heads are cast iron and extremely heavy. Most have replaceable valve seats and guides. Disassemble and clean everything. Inspect for cracks, especially between the valves. If it checks out, lap the valves or replace them entirely. Install new valve stem seals, reassemble the head, and torque the rocker shaft assemblies in place. Before you drop the head onto the block, install a new head gasket. Clean the block deck and head mating surfaces with solvent. No oil or debris should be left. Lower the head carefully into place using a hoist. Then torque the head bolts in a proper sequence. These are torque to yield bolts, so follow the procedure exactly. Start at low torque, then angle torque in multiple stages. Never guess here, use a manual and stick to it. With the head installed, now comes the rocker arms and pushrods. Insert the pushrods, then set the rocker shaft in place. Torque the bolts evenly. Valve lashes next. On the E7, Valve lashes cold set using a feeler gauge, usually 0.016 to 0.020 inches intake and exhaust. Rotate the crank and do each cylinder at top dead center for accuracy. Now comes the turbo. Most E7 South use a fixed geometry turbo mounted directly to the exhaust manifold. Always clean the oil feed and return lines and check the turbo for shaft play. If it's used, rebuild it or replace it. Bolt the manifold and turbo on, install the oil feed line, and prime the turbo with oil to prevent dry spin. Now install the injectors. If you're dealing with mechanical injectors, inspect the tips for damage or carbon buildup. If you're running electronic unit injectors UE, check the solenoids and wiring harness. Install them into the head and torque them down using a torque wrench. Then connect the fuel lines, making sure there are no leaks or cracks in the hard lines.